are just discussing, so I don't think that we do really have that. So probably you know and you understand that that's okay. Good. Someone help me take a picture with the book. Đúng rồi, chụp hình nhẹ hay chụp lại. Cái này thì ok, của mình luôn. Alright, so let's say for a normal approach for presentation, we do that in the afternoon. And so today we're gonna have two presentations, right? And after that we'll have some free time. I will cover the remaining topics for tomorrow, and we save the tutorial for the very last one. Very good. So now we start first with the first paper, mortality and immortality, right? Delivered by Ngọc Anh and Hidak. So the stage is yours.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So today our team would like to present the paper, namely mortality and immortality. The Nobel Prize as an experiment into the effect of status given the longevity. And this by Rabin and Osborne, published in the Journal of Health Economics in 2008. And for this paper, we just want to focus on the identification strategy. So we will have 5 main slides, and it's supported by another slide for reference rest table. So let's start for the motivation. So the paper is motivated by the well-known fact in the health economics that the social economic status and the people with higher social economic status tend to live longer. But the problem is that there is strong correlation. There is a strong correlation, and it's hard to define the causal direction. So the core challenge is because there is the reverse causality, because the healthier individual can tend to achieve the higher status if they live longer. Of course, that is the reverse causality, and also an observed heterogeneity in the selection. Here our author pop up with the idea that to use the Nobel Prize as an exogenous shock to identify exogenous shock to define the social status. And here the winner received the sudden and discrete time increase status. And another group is the nominees is extremely similar in the talent, career, and background. So they have the closely comparison group for the replacement. So but the key research question then therefore, does the winning Nobel Prize force the individual to live longer compared to the equally distinguished nominees who did not win the prize? However, this idea also have the serious identification problem, and now we will talk in the next slide. So for this, we want to introduce about the data that the author view. The data set here is the list of Nobel winners, Nobel Prize winner and nominees in physics and chemistry between the period from 1901 to 1950. And the key strength of this data set is that they compare the winner with the nominees, not to the general population. Because the nominees here have the similar in terms of talent, education, and the career path. But by the way, that we're faced with the challenge in identification also, because the winning the prize, Nobel Prize is the time condition. It means that the scientist must be alive at the work year in order to win. So that also create the problem about the reverse causality, and also known as the immortal time bias, because it's conditional on survival. So but we can and in order to solve this problem, author also use different strategies to solve with the reverse causality. There are two strategies. The first is the matching test. It just compare the longevity, the year in longevity of the winners, conditional compared to nominees who have the relevant background. And the second, they also use they also refer us on the Cox model to build up the function for survival curve, and then they apply, and then they derive the result after that. So now my teammate will present the specific model and the result.
Okay, so now I'll talk about two methods that the authors use to test this. So the first one is the non-parametric matching test. So that, like, the idea is that conditional on the survival up to the award age, the author compare years of life after winning the Nobel Prizes, and also each winner is matched with nominees, like, and having the same birth cohort and alive at the same winner age. And so this is the key object, and the result was reported in table 2, but we didn't put it in here because it's too much of information. So I just make it short. So in summary, the results show that within the same subgroup, the winners of Nobel Prizes live about between 0.7 and 2 years. But because after the intuition check, it shows that the result was very noisy and sensitive, so they moved to a second method. Okay, so this is the main method called Cox proportional hazard models, and it's a semi-parametric survival model. And the idea is that they want to test the probability, instantaneous probability of death, conditional on being alive. And here the key feature is that it's a time varying variable, so the winner is indicate 0 before the award year, and then with equal 1 after the award year, controlling for the variables. And here the result shown in table 3 that if they at winning the Nobel Prizes, they will live for about 1.6 years. So their life expectancy will grow for 1.6 years. And here it also removes the immortal time bias, because it was constructed by this model. So here the main result is that winners live approximately 1.6 additional years if they win a Nobel Prizes. And this result is based on the Cox model, not on the matching test, because as I said before, the matching test is noisy and sensitive. And so here the author state that because there's no significant they don't increase their life expectancy, but the social status does. So here the interpretation is that higher status leads to lower stress and better health. But there's also a few limitations that the author indicated is that there's more and highly selected sample because it's only Nobel Award winners and nominees, and also limited external availability. So this is the end of our presentation, and for the reference we put in the table of results. Or is there any questions?
I have a question. So, what are the confounding factors that threaten your cultural festival and identification strategy?
Can you repeat?
Okay. What are the confounding factors that threaten your cultural festival and identification strategy?
If we talk about this, we need to talk about the fact first. In fact, that they said the person with higher social economic will have will tend to be to live longer. That is one way of the correlation. And your question is how the author define the key to separate what is the they want to divide. They want to say that this is the causal, not just correlation, because they use the Nobel Prize as the key factor here, the key feature here, and it's not applied for all individual, just for the sample of scientists in who is the winner and nominees, and therefore that is the status shock to the data, put in the data, and it's sudden and discrete shock that sharply increase the status in the social status for individual. And of course you can say that is exogenous. And for the result of the Cox model is about the probability of living longer, and they also solve the time very problem. So they have the causal. They define the causal identification here, the causal result here. Do you have any?
If I can ask further a little bit, I mean like in here, right? Like you mentioned about the reverse causality, so that's clear. It's so kind of through your conditional matching, right? And then in the end, you also in your conclusion, you also mentioned about the external validity questions, and also in this kind of like paper, they also try to address the kind of like selection bias, right? But I think what Dean means here is like, how about like all the factors, like how can we in the paper, how did they actually address like have enough confidence to say like, is there any other kind of chance for omitted variable bias, for example? Did they put in enough kind of like control already? I think that is more like on about that questions.
Yeah. For the model, here is our reference from the other literature about the Cox model, but you cannot see in the paper because they not show this function. But in the paper, they talk about the controls. Here we can see in the X from here. This include the control in ages, birth, country, discipline, and another. So that is one way to control the heterogeneity. Heterogeneity. And but the main thing they want to say here is the winner, because this is
zoom in, or
Yeah.
if you want, you could show the paper. Yeah, no problem.
Can you see this? Yeah, this also have the significant and also the confident and I think for my for our side, so this acceptable to about the idea about control, and beside that, the author also admit that their model is not strongly on the point estimation. They just want to say about identification on causal direction. So not the point estimation. It's just so here for significant because we can see on this all the parameters for control is significant. So the worry about control, not the sorry that I did not found any any further explain in the further paper, so it only show up the result here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So overall, just like the main concern, your group feel it's just the external validity only, right? That's the only concern. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I just want to say something more. I also concerned why the author did not use OLS, because when we have just take a look on the paper, we will say that it seems like the IV here for the Nobel Prize, because it's also the dummy 01 and also the exogenous to the model, to the data to fix the problem. But after take a look, yeah, at the beginning, I wonder why they did not use the OS. Yeah, but after for the reading more in the paper, so we know that it's not simply because the all individual did not treat equally, because they different in they have the time vary in the year of death, the survival time, the longevity. So if the OS is cannot explain, it's not fixed for, it's not much for the data. And the second is the main point here is the conditional of the winning. So when you use the data, so if you use OS, so cannot show for the conditional on the identification, data identification. So that's all we want to say now. So, Dr. do you have any comment for us?
Yes, but let's say because we have like 1.5 hours on this one, and thank you very much for your presentation. And I would say I want to foster, let's say, discussion, or how to say, we analyze, we try to understand the numbers together, right? And regarding that, we also try to understand the setup. So let's say we will have like more questions coming. But I think so far, thank you very much for giving us like an overview of the paper, right? And so the results. But let's assume I'm also the audience here, right? And could you just tell me what, let's say, why do we have, so I know that we have 2 subgroups, right? One winners and nominees. So this is our entire sample, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because we only focus on the winner and those who are nominated but not winning.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. We do not compare with like the remaining population
Yeah.
because that might raise different, let's say, problem is confounding factors, right? Probably those who are not nominated, they have not, let's say, achieved the same or at least the bare minimum for Nobel Prize, something like that, right? Or they do not have invested during their lifetime enough or sufficient educational investment or intellectual investment. So do you think that narrowing down to these 2 groups, let's say, to some extent, make this, let's say, comparable? Because in econometrics, we want to make sure that we compare apple with apple, right?
Mm.
Not apple with orange. So those I'm trying to tell you like a mantra, something you could remember, you keep in mind when you read the paper. So we want to make sure that the two groups we are comparing are comparable. We compare apples with apples or orange with orange. We do not compare apple with orange. That's one thing. And so this is the first step that they try to narrow down the sample. So it's a good signal, right? Good. And then within each each subsample that they show, we have like the first, the second.
I think there's more.
Okay.
Two This is the this right for the symbol. Yeah, they have the comparison here for the symbols, the winners, nominees, and the separate the fields of their prize.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you say that they have the comparison, they summarize here, but I think we can go to the table 2 for the matching test, because for here they said that they compare the winner with the margin nominees. Yeah. So this is the window. I will explain more because as you say that the comparison must available. Yeah.
Okay.
So the window here is for just the how to say. The window, they use the window, means that mortality between the age of the winners and the age of the nominees, which they use to compare. And here, this is the number of nominees that match with the winners, and this is the control for the nationality. And they saw the result here that the difference between the probability, the year, the total year that winner alive compared with the nominees, and they have the different here. So another is that unconditional. Unconditional means they just compare with the nominees, but not condition on the same year, the same age with the winners or not. That's why it's unconditional. So the difference between here, they said that is the immortal time bias. They thought that the difference between these conditional and unconditional is immortal time bias. They said that is the bias that already exclude. And following this table, they have set the baseline and compare you to improve it in the table 3. So in the next model for the probability, not only compare in general.
Okay. Let's say. Could you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah. You want to go?
Maybe I'll help you draw a little bit on the whiteboard. That's okay. So you stay here and you check if my understanding is correct or not, okay? I think I'll use this one first. we want to make sure that we compare. So, apples, right? Not apple with oranges, right? This is what we wanna see. We wanna treat in mind all the time, and this is for this one, and we also have the different in differences. Who are gonna present this like the difference with BNB? Okay, good. Right. So this one is directly related to what you are doing, right? And let's say we have one group of so we call this one let's say the entire population, right? Okay. So that could be multiple people, right, with different ages, different occupations, and so maybe they are not only researcher, they are also teacher, they are also manager, something like that, right? And it's not quite, how to say, meaningful, right? If we compare people, so let me denote the one, the red one, are the winner, right? So I notice what is winner. And the blue one, something like this. Maybe they are nominee, right? Or let's say even the winner first, they have to be nominated first, right? Then they win the prize. And so first, we try to, we think of it this way. If we look at the entire example, the entire population, that doesn't make sense because we may miss some confounding factors that affect the two groups. So probably those who are nominated and then winners, right? They got different types of education. They come from different family with various background, or we think of it this way. So probably the fathers, the mothers, they encourage the kids to read from very early ages. For example, like that, right? So we have like family background. Right. And also, let's say, what happens if they select themselves, they choose to live in, I don't know, maybe educated group or area, or educated area, right? In one paper of, actually I forgot, but I think in the IB session we discussed about that. When we try to think of one good instrument to see if to find one proxy that indicates or that makes people tend to obtain higher level of education, the author try to use this one. They try to check if, let's say, this one is the 4-year college, and they claim that if the student or the kids who's been growing up in a household, I don't remember exactly, but within 5 kilometers of the 4-year college, they tend to obtain higher education and be within, right? So I might check about it exactly, but basically the idea is if you live within a radius of the 4-year college, now university, people tend to obtain higher education. Why is it? because probably they look at people, they look at the, let's say, the university student, think how they behave, they behave good, they do not involve in any criminal stuff, they do not use drugs, something like that, or they achieve higher career or better career later. And that's why the kids growing up in such area, they tend to look up and they tend to, let's say, pursue higher education, right? This is one very reputable Ivy. And think of it this way. So yeah, we probably think of the same argument that probably those who are nominated and the winner themselves, they have been living in an environment, right? They select themselves to the environment that encourage them to work hard and to achieve higher intellectual, let's say, status, right? And so first, we only focus on the red and the blue, right? Let's say. But what do you notice here? They are not balanced, right? If I recall, the nominated is 3 times larger than the winners. So among lots of them, only 1/3, right, got the prize. And so therefore, if we compare, let's say, on average, we have 1 winner, right?
Yeah.
So 1 winner with, let's say, 2 control. That might not be that very good because to some extent probably they control themselves, or one natural question is the winners, they got the prize for a reason. They are very different than the blue ones, right? And what we are trying to do is to, among those blue ones, we just pick the one by our assumption are very identical, right? We call it identical. Of course, it's not exactly identical, but we try our best to find the identical, right? Right. So we call it, let's say, B, right? And this one is A. So they are similar in all aspects. Could you tell me the characteristic that they use to control for them? I think you mentioned that, right? They matches, right? By the age, right?
Yeah.
So is that the age of nominated year, something like that, right?
So, at the time they receive,
The prize.
yeah,
Okay.
the age at the time they receive the prize.
Mhm. At the time they receive.
Sorry, receive the prize or receive the first nomination?
Yeah, the first.
Maybe you could check on the paper, no worries. Just open it and check if it's correct or not, right? Okay. But in short, at the time we compare, we make sure that they are at the same age. Something like that, right?
Yeah, and they also have the relativity between the window of years plus 1 to 2 years for that.
Okay. So let's say we have A. And this is B, right? What is the average year for winner
It's the control. So we have, for example, they based on the nationality also. The result based on the nationality, not only control for the window of age, but also
Okay.
the nationality. So the result will from 0.7 to 2.
But let's say if they do not
Strongly.
split by years, they use their own, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
only strictly, so 0.3.
okay. And so could you tell me what is the difference between conditional and unconditional? So for example, here we only use the match winners, right? And this one is with all nominated. Something like that.
Control for the nationality, not control for the window. Unconditional, not control.
Ah, okay. So conditional test difference. Here we limit it to only, let's say, USA. Okay, very good. So maybe we have one example for this one. Let's assume that the age when they got the first nominees, let's say maybe 60, right? 60 years old. And our criteria will be first, select B from the same country, right?
The B we say here is identical, so it means that condition. So here is the conditional window of year. Yeah.
Okay.
And plus the nationality.
So that means our so we have 60 plus and minus 3, right? With those years.
Yeah, we can say that, but I think that is that one. The window 3, but plus and minus 1 year. They
Okay.
mentioned the window 3, but they said the specific number of years plus and minus 1 year.
So let's say, for example, 22, 23, and 24. So this is exactly 4 years windows, right? But actually the age difference between A and B ranges only from, let's say, -1 and +1,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, very good. So that means filing, you could think of it this way, we manually file each match, right? And for this person, we select that only those who, so we know that A got the prize at the age of 60. So we want to find a match for him, right? And we only limit first the one who was at the age of 95 or 61 at the same year. Very good. So we already limit the sample to maybe here with these 3, right? Not all of the blue, but only a few blue. That first survive the first filter, right? Very good. And so how about nationality? Do we control for them?
Yeah, the next is not control for the window, just compare the nationality. Just for the nationality here, and not control for the window.
Maybe you also open the papers and check, right? Because we are, let's say,
This
we are
is-
analyzing it together, so no pressure at all. Or is it that for those nominees and winners in USA? Here, what they said for each winner is matched only with control from the same nationality, right? And continent or scientific as specified.
I'm sorry. The organism is not controlled for the nationality, and they did not show the match nominees here for the organism. Here is just for him, and for this one, the strategy of matching winners or nominees want to say don't have just one column for the matching winner, and they control for the nationality. That's is my understanding.
Okay. And so for each window, they find only one best match or at least 2 or 3. Do you know? Can you check? This one, right? So if there are more than one, but the person meets all of the, let's say, requirements, they will take all, right? Okay. And one more question. Can one match be match control be the match for more than one winner, or one could play a role for multiple winners? Boy, this year, yeah. Both forwards and backwards. Okay, so plus and minus. Very good. Okay, so if there is no, they start first with 59 to 61, and if there is no candidate for that, they will extend the window, right? So they extend. If no match, but if there's at least one match, they just stop right there. Right, okay. So we have here minus 260 plus 2. So we have. So basically what we are trying to do is to first start with the very strict condition, then we relax the condition, right? Relax condition until we find a match control. Okay, good.
This is not like simply if the window is about the birth year, not the age. Because we want to compare the tell, so we have to set the same start.
But yes, I see your point. But as in this way, so age is incremental, right? And if I was born 1 year earlier than you and 1 year later than you, then the age difference is exactly the same at the time you win the prize or not.
Yes, so this is not the lifespan, just the age at
Yeah.
at that time T
Yes,
of winning
exactly.
that thing.
Yeah, exactly. But and later for the actual time span, we measure really the age, the longevity, right? The difference in longevity. Okay. So what I wanna highlight here is that we try to narrow down, we try to apply filters to find the two, let's say two people that are quite similar, right? They're identical. And the only difference in between them is actually the price. Right? So A and B are always put that like in theory, right? By assumption. The only difference is the price, right? And so could you tell me a bit more, so for the entire class, what is the assumption behind our approach here? We will have to find one identical, or let's say an identical pair, and then we compare them to see the difference.
I think that they want to explore the heterogeneity in and always focus on the different. That's why they want to use the model.
Okay. So let's say we control for confounding factors, right?
Yeah. Although the Nobel Prize use at the external variable, but they still have the correlated with the other factor like educated area or something. So I think that if they narrow down the symbol and the condition of this, so they can exclude some historical generally.
Yes. Okay. Very good. So basically, by trying to find identical stuff, like two identical units here, our assumption is in the absence of the Nobel Prize, the two people have the same longevity, right? Or they live in the same for the same year, right? We assume that they are similar, so without the prize, then they should reach the same year. They should, let's say, pass away at the same year. But thanks to the Nobel Prize, the winner lives longer, right? Okay. So in absence of the Nobel Prize, right? So A and B, let's say March, let's say 10, let's say years of longevity, right? And I will just make use this chance to talk about the difference in difference. This is just another way we are trying to apply or to review the causal effect. So for example, here, right. So the two groups, so let's say if we have two, this is the time, let's call it the Nobel Prize year, right? Okay. So we have two. So this one is the control, and this one is the treated, right? Usually, if possible, when we matches like this, we assume that the difference is very small, but in different framework, we allow for even the difference right before the shock, right? So we call this one as exogenous shock, right? Always try to argue why is this one the shock. So if someone tell you that, probably when we look at the list of nominees in that year, we know for sure that the winner will be the winner. Then everything will be distorted here, right? But if we say that all of them, they are similar, they have the same possibility to win, right? And the only thing difference that are beyond control, that are out of expectation, the winner got selected randomly, right? Then it's a different story. So, for example, here we assume that after the year of Nobel Prize, the two groups will follow the same pattern, right? So in the absence of the Nobel Prize, they have the same evolution over the year. But thanks to the Nobel Prize, now the treatment go faster or they live longer, right? And actually, what we actually observe is only this one and this one, right? This is our actual value, and this one is actual value. And this dashed line, we call it the counterfactual. So indeed, we do not observe it in real life, right? We only know the exact, let's say, year when the winner passed away and when the, let's say, the nominees passed away. But what would happen, right? What would have happened for the winner if he or she does not win the Nobel Prize? We need to use the one from the control group as a benchmark. So we know that if the winner does not win, he or she could reach maybe this point, right? So actually this is so this delta is the effect of the Nobel Prize, right? Or the true effect or the causal effect. It should be this one, not this one, right? Let's say I call it A, B, and C, right? The true effect is only A minus B, not A minus C, right? So that is the idea when we try to do, let's say we try to find match control, or to find also, if possible, we have match control, otherwise you could use two groups. But the strong assumption here is that without the shock or without the policy, the two group will move in the same, let's say, direction, right, with the same magnitude. But now, if we see the shock, then the difference is actually A minus B as shown in the graph, right? And yeah, I would say that they, as this paper is already written long ago, right? They, let's say, laid a few building blocks for our methods later. And actually, because they become popular just in the last 10 years. So I think that's why we see that in this paper, the author, they try to perform some steps that are not quite straightforward, but they do have some intention and some technology to solve, like, let's say, the problem, and to try to review the causal effect. And very good. So are you okay with, let's say, the mechanism so far? Okay. Now my question for you is, and maybe let's check if you read the paper. I don't think that they mentioned that, or let's see. So do you think that the authors, they miss the Wells effect channel? They mentioned that, right?
Yeah, they mentioned that, but we did not show here because the result is not significant, and they interpret that that don't impact through the well channel, but about the spread or something about status, only not about the well. They already have the model. Yeah, they have,
Okay, very good. So, or maybe I will just write out as diagram, right, so that we can check.
Yeah.
So we have here,
Yeah, the price money.
right?
Yeah.
They check, I think,
The price money and not significant. And the price, the value also not significant.
okay.
Yeah, that is why they mention the web channel is not above here.
So Nobel Prize, we are trying to see if it's variable bias, right? Right. So right now they say it's about the, let's say first reverse causality, right? And also what are the, as I mentioned here, there are multiple characteristics, right, that could drive the possibility to win Nobel Prize and to have longevity, but they already control for that, right? So let's say using match control, and later they also do the cost model. Back then it was okay, and now we could have more. Let's do that, right? Match control. So we solved for this one already, very good. But what if the shock itself, right? So let's say or we write it as we rephrase the questions as what if the longevity we observe here is the consequence of the shock of some channel, right, triggered by the shock. What if let's say, or maybe the shock right affect that eventually affect longevity, right? Why do I say that? So we just try to, let's say, trigger some critical thinking here. We are okay, right? That if we match the sample, we know that we are comparing apples with apples. That's okay. But now, what if the Nobel Prize itself triggers some factors that affect the longevity? And I think in the paper they are talking about what the price value, right? Let's say I will explain it more, or maybe even the status, right? Or we call it like reputation, something like that. So now the change may be different if we consider one scenario. Let's say if the winner, right, when he or she wins the Nobel Prize, he or she receives the, let's say, the prize, right? So some monetary value. But also their stream of incomes will increase as a result of now they become more famous, right? Now they get maybe favorable treatment from the government, right? Or they get more funding to their research project, and that could make them earn more money. And when they earn more money for those years, for those remaining years, now they could have a better life, right? They could invest more in healthcare. Or let's say if they face some sickness or some disease that requires money, right? That requires huge amount of money, for example, cancer or something like that. They could afford that, and that makes them live longer, right? And for those who actually first they lose, they got nominated, they do not win the prize, but later they do not have that enough buffer, right, to come up with some negative shock later in their life, right? And so here, as we may argue that or we doubt that whether earning the Nobel Prize could make those people wealthier or they could afford a better life, that in the end leads to longevity. And this is where we see that probably now the short is not exogenous anymore, or here you mentioned that they see that there is no significant effect, right? So probably it leads to other, or it goes through other channels like the reputation, but not the price itself, right? Because it's insignificant. So we could rule out that possibility, right? But still, when we talk about research, we talk about mechanism, we try to think of it differently, try to look at it from different angles to see whether the results, the researcher or the authors plan in it, right? Okay, so basically that's it. Do you have any question?
Anytime time, yes.
Okay, no worries. So let's say this is what I would say one of the most practical way, right, for us to look at the papers and to learn the concept. And of course, during all the papers, I will try to, let's say, give you relevant information, relevant learning points, and if like to help you enhance your understanding. And even later, I will try to give a summary on the screen, or I will try to record a video, so probably this week or next week, so that you could use that for your lifelong learning. You could keep repeating, checking the concept, right? Okay, but I think so far we are okay with the very good paper, with the very first paper, right? Okay.
Can I add like
Yeah, yes, sure.
so it's not really about the content of this, but like I'm pretty surprised that we can also do this kind of research. I mean like and it's also a very like really excellent paper already. So I want to know like how can it contribute to economics in general? Like for example, like from this conclusion we may encourage people to follow the Nobel Prize to live longer if they want.
Social status.
Is that
Yes.
what we contribute to, and like why feel like I just want to know like how some people want to fund for this kind of project, because it might not be my interest, but people who wouldn't be interested in this one.
Yes. So probably for those who want to foster, I think education and health, right, for sure. But you already pointed out one very good question, and this is where we need to disentangle two things. So first, what are the measures we are using in the paper? So because when we talk about a deeper or like a more underlying mechanism, we want to know, as they also point out, right? It's about social status on the longevity. And that is the biggest question, and I would say that it's not a one time, right? It needs a continuous, let's say, exploration, so that the government themselves could design some policies or some, how to say, some programs that help people in the end to increase the longevity, right? But through different channels, just so I can plan that, okay, now I see that people with a higher social status, right? They live longer, and as one, let's say, policy maker, what I could do is to have some programs that start triggering them to follow or to go to achieve higher intellectual capacity right at a very young age. Or I will make more, how to say, prize like this, right, to reward people with contribution to the research, something like that, to their field. And as we see that now, more and more prizes, they are, let's say, being created worldwide, right, to first to recognize the contribution of not only researchers, but also sometimes we see that for each industry, we have the reward, or even in multimedia, right, we have like actors, or musicians, something like that, celebrating them to recognize their contribution, and in the end, that could lead to some positive factor. And here, if we want to look at a much, how to say, deeper underlying factor, it's more about the social welfare, right? And for research, in the slide I mentioned that that's why we try to encourage you to start with the theory. So we back up some theory. We have some questions that try to that are general. Of course, it might be too abstract, right, to answer. But then, for each context, we will try to find some reliable foresee for that. And of course, here we do not restrict ourselves to the effect of Nobel Prize only, right? But we just think of it in a broader terms that if someone got some prize, they got recognition from the society, they could, let's say, live longer, and so later, as a whole, we have an increase in society welfare. Yeah, sure. No worries. Just feel free to open it because I do think that the more you ask, the better you understand, and later you don't need to cram a lot for the exam.